Hi, everybody. I'm Dustin.
I'm Onna, and we are not qualified to investigate the paranormal.
But we might be more qualified than...
A zoologist.
Isn't it zoologist?
You know, it looks like it should be.
But it's not. But if you say zoologist, everybody looks at you like you're crazy.
And I actually think a lot of people say zoologist.
Oh. Okay, everybody. Welcome back. As some of you might have noticed, we were on hiatus last week. This week, actually, we do have a pretty good story. It was a very hard thing to look at, or to research, I guess, because there is a lot of folklore attached to this. There are a lot of horror movies written about this, and then there's so many different facets of this particular paranormal cryptid. It's a cryptid. This is a cryptid. Is this the first cryptid we've done?
No. I think
Black-eyed children.
Yeah.
They're cryptids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beings.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're beings who are cryptozoologist. We need a cryptozoologist. Zoologist?
Yeah, I thought about saying that, but I didn't know if that was is that a paranormal investigator?
Basically, but it's one who focuses specifically on creatures and cryptids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen enough History Channel shows to know that there are people out there who do call themselves cryptozoologist or zoologist.
Yeah, I know there are, but I just didn't know if they are legitimate.
I don't know if there's like a PhD or even a bachelor's in cryptozoology.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
Anyway,
that's why we're less qualified than them too.
Anyway, so the thing we're talking about today. However, I will say that the more modern examples that I could find are from some very interesting, well-known sources.
Okay.
And we'll get into that.
I'm excited.
Okay. As usual, I don't have 3 stories. I just have 2 stories, but then I do have kind of a section where we go into talking about the folklore, the different areas of the world that have this particular cryptid, and what they call it.
Cool.
But I am ready with the first story.
Tell me a story.
One chilling evening in the ominous Vale of the 90s.
What was ominous?
Everything was ominous about the 90s. Everything. It's so ominous I can't even describe it.
Really?
That's how ominous it is. We all watched The X-Files and believed some of it.
Yeah.
You watch it now, it's like, what the?
I know. It's so ridiculous.
I love it still, but...
Yeah, it's definitely a nostalgia thing. But I feel like I think of The X-Files and then I think of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and a lot of fluorescent clothing and...
Anyway. It was on a chilling evening while someone was watching Seinfeld. No, wait, early 90s. Someone was watching Power Rangers. That's what I was watching in the 90s. Anybody else? No?
Cheers.
Billy, a musician, found himself in the unassuming comfort of a friend's apartment after a gig. The city's flickering lights provided the only respite from the overwhelming darkness that pervaded outside. As laughter and stories filled the room, an uncanny sense of normalcy settled between them. "Billy, do you believe in the supernatural?" his friend asked, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Oh, let me do that line again then. "Billy, do you believe in the supernatural?" His eyes gleaming with an eerie intensity. With a skeptical smirk, Billy responded, "Ghosts and ghouls? Not my scene. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of them in the lyrics of my music, but that's all." Little did he know, his reality was about to skew into the realm of his worst nightmares. Suddenly, his friend's silhouette started to warp. It was as if a demonic force had seeped into their world, using his friend as a conduit. The transformation was horrifyingly surreal, the human form mutating into something grotesque and unnatural. "What the... Is this some kind of a sick joke?" Billy stammered, the fear evident in his trembling voice. His heart pounded in his chest like a death knell. The fuck is a death knell?
It's an ominous tone.
Is it?
Foretelling death.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. His heart pounded in his chest like a death knell. I fucking can't do that line. His heart pounded in his chest like a death knell, his blood running ice cold.
No joke, Billy.
The entity responded, its voice a dissonant echo of his friend's, yet laced with an unsettling malice.
Welcome to my reality.
Frozen in his seat, Billy was a captive audience to the grotesque spectacle before him. His friend, or the nightmarish creature that had taken his place, contorted and twisted like a creature born of terror itself. This wasn't an illusion. It was a manifestation of his darkest fears, a scene ripped from a horror story, permanently etched in the canvas of his memory. I know you love stuff like that.
Oh yeah, please tell me more. Use much more elaborate metaphors repeatedly in a row.
As abruptly as it began, the transformation ceased. His friend sat there once more, his familiar eyes harboring a cruel glint of satisfaction. "Quite a show, isn't it, Billy?" he taunted, his grin a sinister curve in the dimly lit room. This terrifying experience brought to light the nightmarish possible reality that he thought only existed in horror films. It served as a chilling reminder that even in the most ordinary moments, malevolent forces could unveil themselves, catching even a rock star like Billy off guard. The world, it seemed, was teeming with unseen terrors, ready to reveal themselves when least expected. And that is the first real account from a source that is a known person, not just somebody on Reddit.
A known rock star.
A known rock star named Billy who was up and rising in the 90s.
The world is a vampire.
Yep. This is Billy Corrigan, and he has since doubled down on this story. Not only saying that was he 100% being truthful about the first story, he said he has seen this person now do it a second time.
So what did he turn into?
Billy Corrigan, actually, this has been very dramatized. Billy Corrigan did not give any more information other than just saying, so it was on Howard Stern. And Howard Stern asked him I think he asked him if he was religious or something. And Billy Corrigan was like, I'm not really religious. I don't really believe in the supernatural, but I have seen some things. And then, of course, Howard Stern, being the interviewer he is like, seen things like what?
That's such a strange answer to that question. Are you religious? No, but, I have a friend who's a shapeshifter.
He didn't say that. He said, I've seen some supernatural things. And we've talked about that on this podcast before, where, like, when we talk about the courtroom, when we talked about, what's her name? Zona Hester. And we were like, oh, wait, does the court recognize supernatural things? And it's like, well, when you get on the stand, the first thing you do is raise your right hand and
on a Bible,
or on whatever you believe. And I'm not saying that the Bible or religion is supernatural, but I think that means that you do believe in otherworldly forces, right? Or something higher than us, or something that's invisible, an invisible force, right? So to me, if you're saying that you believe in religion, or if you're asking the question of religion, you're asking the question of kind of the afterlife and some beliefs and some,
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of asking, it makes sense that it connected to him with having a mind open to possibilities that cannot be explained.
Right. But I think I think I was right, because I don't think he did believe in anything supernatural before he had seen his friend do this. Again, he was very vague in his description of what had happened. He also refused to tell who this person was. But he said, I'm being very vague on purpose. So he didn't want to out this person as a shapeshifter.
Okay.
Anyway, so what do you think? He also did say, he's like, look, because I think after he said it, it was like media bonanza freaking out that Billy Corrigan, this rock star, had said that he knows the shapeshifter. So they're calling him and they're trying to, who is it? And are you crazy? What are you part of the occult? Because his lyrics and everything else, Smashing Pumpkins lyrics. Smashing Pumpkins, by the way, are in my top probably 3 bands of all time, if not the top. So I know a lot of their lyrics. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. So just knowing that a lot of his lyrics are like that. He would dress not gothy. Yeah, kind of gothy. He got more gothy as he went along. I'd say he got more gothy in the 2000s.
Gothy? Is that a word?
Yeah. He was more punky before.
Oh, yeah. Punky is a word, but I never heard gothy.
Yeah. He dressed more like a goth, during the Adore days. Anyway.
Gothic.
Gothic. Yeah, there you go. But Gothic Gothic just sounds like architecture.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not, you can't be punkic. like punk architecture.
He became a gargoyle later into his.
He became a gargoyle later. No, that's not nice because that sounds like we're saying he's ugly.
I'm not saying that.
Oh well, I'm not talking about the man's attractiveness at all.
I'm not gonna dog on Billy Corgan too much. I do appreciate that band for sure.
Yeah, he helped form he helped me in my formative years. Anyway,
some beautiful music.
Yes. Anyway, so back to that. Like, I don't think that anybody doubted that, oh, he's probably part of the occult. So, like, he got kind of a lot of backlash. And Howard Stern asked him about that later. And he's like, I've been in the public eye for 30 years now. This was, like, much later. He's like, I can take that. He's like, when I said that, though, it did seem like there was something extra there and people really wanted to know more about it. And I think the reason is because I had a hell of a time finding true... I do have a piece of video evidence as well to show you.
Of this person?
No. Of a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
And this, then the video evidence comes from Jack Osborne, Ozzy Osbourne's son.
So,
yeah, no,
it's like
something.
Shapeshifters and the rock community.
That's right. So actually, I was thinking about were the Smashing Pumpkins ever in Ozfest? They probably were, right?
Possibly.
They probably were.
Something to look up.
So if you went to Ozfest, you'd just think that's where all the shapeshifters hang out.
Just hang out. It's a subculture of shape-shifting rock fans.
So I'm not asking you to analyze Billy Corgan by any stretch of the imagination, but what do you think?
Well, I have to say part of me does do a little bit of that because of
who you are?
Or
what you do.
Oh, well, actually, probably more as a rock fan and just like knowing what I know about him, having been a kid.
Okay.
A kid into his music and just following him over years. When you said just now that was something that people were really, he was sort of surprised at how curious people were about it once he said that. Maybe he said it off the cuff the first time, but
I think Howard Stern had a probe for it.
Gosh, I'd love to listen to that clip.
I've
never ever said I'd love to listen to Howard Stern before. So
only when he's on and the Foo Fighters are on. That's like the best ones to watch.
Okay.
Somebody's got the rock bands on.
and not to like, and I always try to go in with this, okay, people, good faith that people are being honest. However, he's a person who, as far as I know, and to this day, feels like he never got enough of his due.
Yeah.
And never got enough fame and notoriety or credit
probably
for
because he
himself
told
as
that
a
shapeshifter story.
Musical genius. And I'd wonder if that means if something got him a lot of attention, if people were really curious about it, is that going to give him more incentive to keep talking about it and repeat it? And
the only time he ever repeated it again is when Howard Stern asked him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
So yeah, Howard Stern asked him later, and Billy Corgan did say something along the lines of, look, yeah, totally possible. Not possible in that I was doing drugs, but possible that I hallucinated the situation.
Yeah.
He's like, but I saw what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. Did he describe it in
no,
any way?
He wouldn't.
No way at all.
Nope.
And did he say the kind of content you went into in the story of like, this is my life, man? Like,
no.
This is what I live. There was no conversation with this. Was there a conversation with him? So he saw him. He turned away. He looked back, and he saw a creature that didn't interact with it as his friend.
I don't know. He wouldn't go into those details.
That's to me what we were talking about. This is going to perhaps lead into your next story of the definition of a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't interact with it in a way that leads him to be confident that it was his friend in a different shape, how do we even know it was a shapeshifter? Yeah.
I don't know. I think, to me, if you say it's a shapeshifter, then you either witnessed a transformation or you had a conversation with it in its transformed state.
Right. Or
prove, like if it was a giant ostrich, you were like, who are you, my buddy? And if it started talking out of its mouth with your buddy's voice, then I'd say that's you witnessed something, right? That's paranormal.
Yeah, there may be some other ways, but for sure, something that makes the A and B connect a little clearer.
Okay.
That this is something that has an ability to shift shapes.
Do you want me to go into my about shapeshifters?
Yeah, I do. So I appreciate that first story. We might come back to it, but
so it's a quick blurb. But I do have 11 regions around the world with examples.
That's great.
Okay.
This is amazing. There's going to be so much
Good.
human culture.
Yes. That's literally what we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Shapeshifters are a prominent theme in various cultures, folklore, and mythology around the world. These beings, often human or divine, have the ability to transform their physical form or appearance, usually into that of animals, although transformations into other humans or even inanimate objects are also common.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Just had Professor McGonagall turning into a cat.
So
and
you
then,
know
like,
what's funny when I
the
was doing
cup
research
and-
on this? The first thing that popped up was like Animagi in Harry Potter,
Yeah.
and I was like, "That's not real. That's not.
No.
That's not even folklore. That's fiction."
Well, J.K. Rowling famously pulled from
Right.
so much other
Oh, for sure.
literature and lore.
For sure. So my first example here is, of course, European folklore. Werewolves being a being that transforms. Some of these are pretty obvious. Beings that transform from humans to wolves, usually under the full moon, originate from ancient Germanic and Norse mythology and were later incorporated into medieval European folklore. Norse mythology. Gods such as Loki and Odin were known to transform into various animals or other forms to deceive others or gather information. Native American folklore. The Navajo culture tells of skinwalkers, witches, or medicine men who can transform into animals, often as a means of teaching lessons or creating mischief. Asian folklore. In Japanese and Chinese folklore, fox spirits known as kitsune and hiljing, I have no idea if I pronounced those right, I apologize if I didn't, respectively, and deciphered as magical creatures capable of transforming into humans, often appearing as beautiful women to deceive men. African folklore. African cultures hold stories about were-hyenas and were-lions, where witch doctors and sorcerers transform into these animals. And in Egyptian mythology, gods and goddesses often transform into animal forms. Celtic folklore. The mythical Selkies, found in Irish, Scottish, and Icelandic folklore, are beings capable of transforming from seals into beautiful humans by shedding their skins. Greek mythology. Gods and goddesses such as Zeus and Athena were known to transform themselves into animals and other human forms to interact with mortals, often leading to significant outcomes in myths and legends. Indian mythology. Various deities and demons in Hindu mythology are known to shapeshift. Lord Vishnu's 10 avatars of Dasavantara represent him in different forms, including animals, humanoids, and humans. Again, I apologize for the mispronunciation if I did. Australian Aboriginal folklore. Dreamtime stories often include ancestral beings who can transform into animals, landscapes, features, or celestial bodies, such as the rainbow serpent, a powerful creator being that can take many forms. Almost done. South American folklore. The Encantado from Brazil folklore are creatures from a paradisiacal underwater realm, capable of transforming into humans or Amazon River dolphin, often coming to the surface to seduce humans and party. To seduce humans
and to
and
party. I'm here
Okay.
to seduce humans and to party.
I didn't know if they were like there to seduce humans and the party, to seduce the party. But no, it's to seduce humans. We're here to seduce humans and party.
Exactly.
And we've seduced all the humans. Okay. Slavic folklore. In Slavic mythology, Vadyanoi is a male water spirit that can shapeshift, often appearing as a naked old man with a frog-like face, greenish beard, and long hair, with a body covered in algae and muck. That was the worst one.
That was very detailed
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to some of the others. That was a great summary.
Yeah. So that's it. So in other words, this comes from this isn't culturally bound. This is
Right.
found in all cultures throughout all times. A lot of mythology, a lot of like ancient gods and goddesses who can do this. A lot of European term of witch doctor, but medicine man or elder who leads a tribe being able to do this in Native American, Aboriginal, indigenous peoples
Mm-hmm.
kind of idea there.
Yeah.
The only one to me that, and then of course we have things like werewolves that we've all grown up with because they've been in horror movies. Vampires are another one. We'll talk about those later into more depth and detail. I think what we're talking about here when we say shapeshifters is the all-encompassing capability of a human to transform into something else, even if that's another human. I still think that would be considered a shapeshifter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some Greek and Roman divine spirits that can morph into other humans, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah. What seems different about most of what you described from, say, werewolves is the voluntary nature of it. It being almost like a superpower.
It's a superpower, right? Even for the disgusting, gross Slavic frogman.
Yeah. What does he do?
He shapeshifts, often appearing as a naked old man with a frog-like face, greenish beard, and long hair with a body. That's just what he shapeshifts into.
Well, like, why?
He's just a water spirit. Vadyanoi.
Okay.
You don't know about
It seems like
Vadyanoi?
so many of the ones you described are like very functional.
Quick, I'll just read this real quick. Vadyanoi, also called Vodnik in Slavic mythology, the water spirit. The Vadyanoi is essentially an evil and vindictive spirit whose favorite sport is drowning humans. Anyone bathing after sunset on a holy day or without having first made the sign of the cross risks being sucked into the water by Vadyanoi.
Wow. So that one kind of goes to the watch out.
Yeah.
Be a good boy or this will happen to you.
Be a good boy or you'll get killed by Vadyanoi.
Exactly. It doesn't rhyme. So, yeah. If we're talking about a really broad category of beings that exist across cultures and beings, mythology, spirits, gods, very few of these are like human, just people, right? Like that.
Well, the example we just heard was, if you're talking about just the culture, the culturally, the cultural capability. Werewolves are normal humans, quote unquote, right? They're not gods or anything crazy like that. Native American folklore, the skinwalkers, they're just humans.
Oh, okay. That some people will have this ability, or that they are supernatural beings in and of themselves that are not human. That's what, to me, I guess, is the distinction. Are these humans with the ability to transform, or gods, or demons, or
aliens,
or other cryptids?
Right, or aliens. That's another big thing. Is that the serpent men? That's the new thing. Oh. And so that's some of the crazy
lizard people stuff?
the crazy conspiratorial stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or that I'm talking about that is more prevalent on YouTube. When you look up shapeshifters, that's what you get. You get a bunch of that bullshit.
Okay, so we're throwing lizard people into the shapeshifter category.
Unfortunately, we have to, because they are very talked about currently culturally.
And they fit into the
Not
definition.
Not in my culture, but in somebody's culture.
Yeah. If it's a broad enough definition, then that is just a being that is able to intentionally or under certain circumstances change shape into another type of being.
I would say intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah.
If you have the capability to transform into another being, whether you want to or not, that's still supernatural in my book. It's still paranormal.
Yeah. So it's a supernatural ability for sure when you're okay. And then to me, the supernatural piece, is the paranormal piece is, have people seen this happen?
Yes.
Because there's belief systems and structures.
Right.
And we could talk about the cross-cultural sort of human, maybe motivations for why this is a cross-cultural phenomenon of beliefs. And then there's why do people are seeing these across cultures? Is that evidence for a paranormal activity?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me a story about any other stories about sightings?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one more, let's say modern, but not modern.
I mean, the Billy Corgan one's pretty contemporary.
Yeah. Pretty contemporary. It's the 90s, and then he doubled down on it I think recently. What I'm going to tell you now is a story that is from 2013, but it's about a man who lived a long, long time ago in this galaxy, not in one far away. But he had a major impact.
Am I supposed to guess?
No, not yet.
Okay.
You'll figure it out as we go along.
Is it Jesus Christ?
It is.
Oh, is it?
Oh, you got it.
Oh, okay.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay.
Tell me a Jesus story.
In the land of pyramids and mysteries, an accomplished archaeologist, Dr. James Hartfield, was leading an excavation team on the site of an ancient monastery in Egypt. The air was filled with the fine dust of centuries as workers carefully sifted through the remains of what was once a vibrant center of religious learning. One day, amidst the routine unearthing, a junior archaeologist, Sophie, discovered something unusual in a previously unexplored section of the monastery. Her hands trembled as she carefully uncovered an ancient piece of parchment, its edges frayed with time. "Dr. Hartfield," she called, her voice echoing through the silence of the excavation site. "I've found something." James, busy examining another artifact, looked up, his eyes widened at the sight of the parchment in Sophie's hands. "Good heavens, Sophie, that could be a significant find. Let's be extremely careful with it." They moved to the makeshift lab setup, and James began the delicate task of cleaning and preserving the document. It was painstaking work, requiring patience and precision. Finally, after several hours, the document was preserved, ready for translation. Sophie, having learned Coptic during her studies, took up the task of translation. The content of the text was astonishing, recounting a version of the crucifixion of Jesus that was far from the accepted narrative. The text spoke of Pontius Pilate sharing a meal with Jesus, offering to sacrifice his son in place of Jesus, and even suggesting that, "No," Sophie whispered, "this can't be right. What she had just translated must be wrong." She reread it again and again, but could not decipher the text in any other way. She was no expert in Coptic translation and was afraid to even speak what she had just read aloud, as she might be mistaken. But if she was right, it would change the way that everyone viewed Jesus Christ. "Anything good?" a voice said behind her. Sophie gave a frightened gasp and turned around. "Oh, Dr. Hartfield. Yes, this is absolutely incredible," she said. "It's an entirely different account of the crucifixion, preserved for centuries in this secluded monastery with some interesting other words that I don't think I'm translating right." Let me take a look. But I'd be surprised, Sophie. You were one of the top students in that course, and..." Dr. Hartfield's voice faded off as he started to read the text. He looked up at Sophie. She stared back at him. He smiled, embarrassed. "I guess my Coptic is a little rusty, too. Let's send it to my friend, Dr. Rolf van den Broek, at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. He'll be able to solve this puzzle." A few hours later, Dr. Rolf had a scanned document in his possession and started to translate. "Let's see," he said to an empty room. "Pilate prepared a table, and he ate with Jesus on the 5th day of the week, and Jesus blessed Pilate and his whole house. Das ist gut, das ist gut," he said, recognizing that there was nothing particularly out of the ordinary. As he continued, he took a sip of his tea. As he read the next line, he almost spit the hot tea out. "Remarkable!" he exclaimed, and started to translate for the third time out loud, just to be sure. "Then the Jews said to Judas, 'How shall we arrest him?' meaning Jesus, 'for he does not have a single shape, but his appearance changes. Sometimes he is ruddy, sometimes he is white, sometimes he is red, sometimes he is wheat-colored, sometimes he is pallid like ascetic, sometimes he is a youth, and sometimes he is an old man.'" He couldn't believe his eyes. As he continued on, Judas suggested that he could kiss the one that they called Jesus, so the Romans could identify the shapeshifter. "My God, Jesus was a shapeshifter."
Wow.
He published a book on this, by the way.
Oh.
So,
Rolf?
Dr. Rolf. Rolf van den...
Vandenbroek?
Is it Vandenbroek? Is that what I said?
What you said?
Sure. I'll put the...
Yeah.
I'll put the links in the notes, guys. Don't worry.
Right.
And again, I apologize if my...
They were terrible. All of your accents were terrible.
Okay. That's fine. So yeah, there we go. So there was actually that while I was looking for real stories of this is one of the main ones that popped up that I was like, this is actually kind of more believable.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise you get a lot of just anonymous submissions to Reddit, anonymous submissions to different blog posts, and
oh, you mean
I love creative writing, but I don't. You can't necessarily trust those places as a source.
oh, of like I saw a shapeshifter,
Right? Because
Oh,
you don't know their
yeah.
real name.
Yeah.
You don't know if what they're going through is real.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that anybody's lying on any of those forums, but I will say that I do believe that some people are just making up stories on those things. So, and whoever wrote this version of the gospel might have been making things up too. I don't know. It sounds a little crazy for them to just like make that up about Jesus Christ, but who knows? Anyway, so that's my last example of this.
Where it's just straight up written in some text that they don't know who wrote.
No, I think they know who wrote this account. Here's the thing: there are so many versions of the gospel that were destroyed by Emperor Constantine during the Council of Nicaea, when he decided that the 4 gospels that would really matter or really count towards the life of Jesus Christ were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That was it. They burned everything else. Everything else they could find. So now when they go to the problem is that everything that was in their control, that didn't count for Egypt, and that didn't account for documents that were buried somewhere. Like they obviously didn't, because they couldn't find them, or they hadn't been found yet, or they didn't have control over them, right? So these documents are constantly coming up where they're like, oh, here's a new account of Jesus, and it turns out he did have a wife, and it turns out there's also a bunch of documents underneath the Vatican in their private collection. There's lots of conspiracy theories about what's under there and what those documents actually say about the life and death of Jesus Christ, who he was as a man, what kind of man he was.
You think they have ones that say he was a werewolf?
Well, this one says he was able to change color color of his skin as well as age. That's kind of what I read out of it anyway.
Yeah.
Now
that he could appear to have various skin colors and ages. Now, what do you,
I will also say that,
ancient
text translation. I'm not an ancient text translator. However, we have seen so many versions of the Bible come out. Everybody's translation is a little bit different, right? So if somebody says, I translated this as the Romans being like, oh, he changes from day to day.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's old, sometimes he's young. That leads me to believe that the informant, like I almost read it as like the informant that they get always tells them something different.
Yeah.
Like to lead them away from who the real Jesus is.
Yeah.
And so, maybe they just didn't want Judas to just take the 30 pieces of silver, run away. They were like, no, you have to go. Like they were leading him to say, I will go and point to Jesus, and then you will know that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like a very like modern day cop trick. Like, oh, hey, how do I know you're telling me the truth, Jimmy? One day your boss is this guy and the next he's that guy, and then you're going to disappear. You're going to have our money.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'll go. I'm going to go. I'll give him a kiss. I'll kiss the old bastard,
Yeah.
I don't know why everybody was Italian in there.
I don't know. But a bad
Italian-American.
Bad interpretation. Bad informants. Bad. Okay, so there is translation and then there's interpretation.
Right.
And those things get really well blended and mixed together too. So
right.
And then I think what you're bringing up is a really good point about the context in which that alleged event was happening.
Yeah.
Was in the context of trying to suppress a religious movement. And that means there are going to be people fighting and, as you say, people resisting in all different ways.
Right.
And there's also going to be, you could think of it another way, as you're speaking to sort of the people trying to help Jesus escape or be not identified by the authorities. But then there's also the ways in which people might be paranoid in the community about him and his followers, and
right,
like witch hunting kind of thing. Like anyone who says this is a witch, or oh my gosh, that person said something, that person over there is speaking the words of this Jesus of Nazareth. They're him, and it's a boy or an old man or whatever. You know what I mean? It could have been just a paranoia going around the community about him.
Yeah,
and his followers.
And what's funny is I read all those examples culturally, and there were African examples, but there were no Middle Eastern examples. So I wonder if there were Middle Eastern shapeshifters, and that was like supposed to be the devil or something, and so they were just literally calling him the devil or something along those lines.
Right. Yeah. It can go into that, like he's doing these miracles, he's practicing, he can do all sorts of things. I mean, it's not really dissimilar from, he can turn water into wine. He can also shape shifts, or shift. I'm gonna do that like 3 more times. He can also shift shapes.
Right. Just say shapeshift.
He's all can. Yeah.
We're talking about shapeshifters. This is a shapeshift. But what's interesting? I did read one about the Romans, right? So the Romans had the belief of their gods being able to transform.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's take this at face value and say they believed he was a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't that just prove that he was the son of God or the son of a god?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
So why wouldn't the Romans have been like, maybe we shouldn't mess with this guy? Like, hey, he looks different every single time we see it, just like our gods.
Oh, well, now...
But he's blasphemous, so we got to go get him.
Yeah, well, now we're getting into the politics of
that
time.
Okay, we don't need it. Okay.
Like, why
and
might they want
I'm not a historian, so...
Yeah.
Anyway, it just seems a little weird. Okay, so let's take this at face value, though. Let's take... Okay, the translation really truly meant that Jesus was a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that, right? Because then that mixed with the other folklore stuff that we've been reading about, the other tales we've been reading about, mixed with our modern day version with Billy Corgan. Where are we at, Doc?
Oh, gosh. Well, we don't mix them all. I think that's what's really important is to look at each of these in context and to understand that humans have really nuanced experiences as well as belief structures and systems. And then across culture, having these beliefs that your deity is a shapeshifter, all the way down to, a monster lurking in the darkness might be a shapeshifter. That's going to get at very different psychological processes, but that we all share. And I think one of them, so being that if the person you admire the most, whether it's your deity,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to just use that word broadly because we're speaking from Thor and Loki, ancient Viking beliefs to ancient Greek mythology of Zeus being a shapeshifter, whatever it is, all the way to modern day, I guess more contemporary superheroes, the people you might admire, the ideas of the people you might admire, being able to shapeshift is super cool and something you would fantasize about. So I see that more in the category of fantasies of power and abilities, and it's kind of putting in whether it's a deity or Superman that you're thinking about, whatever is your cultural kind of system around that. The people you admire the most or the ideas that you admire the most. It's an amazing ability to have. It's something we would fantasize about, and fantasies serve a function in like motivating our achievement that we all share. Not that you could reach that, but it's fantasy.
So can I share my like feelings on this, and you kind of help me interpret those? Because the way that I feel about shapeshifters is that there's this sense of mistrust.
So that was the positive part. The more like that's an amazing ability to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the dark side of it. So then the monsters, as I said, the monster at night. So you got this like wide ranging spectrum of all these shapeshifters.
But I would say the monster at night is like, if someone's like, there's a monster at night, I'd be like, oh shit, I don't want to go out there. But if someone's like, oh, there's just an old man walking out there, I'd go out there, and then it turns into a monster.
Yeah.
That's like the misleading.
Yeah. And to me goes, so we're talking like, this is really interesting to me right now because I'm about to describe to you sort of my conceptualization of one of the models of conceptualization of human functioning and human motivation. And I haven't really gone into that in our podcast at all, but
let's do it.
So, this comes from contextual behavioral science, also like, psychologists who work from, compassion focused behavioral therapies, where we try to look at like our human motivations kind of fitting into 3 categories of emotion. So it's motivational psychology. It's also emotion psychology. And that's kind of neat. But behavioral too. So 3 main categories. So there's evolutionary pieces as well. And that's why it's coming back to this might be a cross-cultural human phenomenon that's existed for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we all might share these same evolutionary motivations because we're all here for three things that our ancestors did that allowed us to be here.
Fighting, fucking, no, sorry.
That's exactly right.
Oh my God.
You're exactly right.
Isn't that like a stupid country song? Like fight, fuck, and what is it? Run or something? I don't know what the third one is.
So,
you tell me what the sorry, go ahead.
Survive. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So flee. You could say that.
Fight, fuck, and flee.
Well, yeah. Like you could say it in those three, but really it gets at like they survived all the threats to their physical safety and well-being. So that's disease and monsters in the form of predators. Yeah. Right. They survived. And so we've evolved a system of our emotional system of fear. Right. So we all share in that, like if that ability to react to threats so that we can survive. Right. That's one of our systems of emotion and motivation. And then when you escaped your danger, then you are safe and you have a sense of safeness and belonging, and you might partner up and you might mate, right? And you have that. Mm-hmm. So we also have that motivation for belonging and safeness mm-hmm. and love and connection and procreation, right? Okay. So not everybody's going to have a drive to procreate, just for babies, for example, but like, yeah, that love drive, and all the emotions that go along with being social animals. And then that's our kind of non-competitive side, right? That we get along, we want to collaborate and love each other. And then there's this part of us that might get bored sometimes, right? We want to stand out from the crowd. We don't just want to get along. We mm-hmm. want to compete, and we want to be have some stature, some status, some growth in our lives or achievement. And that's the fighting part. That's the competitive side of us. That
sounds much nicer the way you said it, though.
Yeah. Well, I think that's helpful to think about. Like, we all want to have good careers or grow in our lives and have skills and things like that. We're not always trying to like beat each other down or compete and claim territory and stuff, or destroy their tribe so we can take that might have evolved from that. So all of these are like our three kind of core emotion systems. And I think that does connect in many ways to these things can get kind of out of balance, or they can also get really creative. So when I said that, I think that the shape-shifting belief structure can kind of be part of that achievement drive, that growth drive, that like fantasy. Mm-hmm. Oh, if I could turn into anything I wanted, if I could, mm-hmm. I think I keep going back to Moana, who's the Maui. Yeah. I love that character so much. Yeah, and he can shapeshift, and it's he's but he also has like a regulated kind of achievement drive. Like he's like really conceited. Yeah, and also insecure, right? When he doesn't have that ability, then who am I? Mm-hmm. So that kind of system of motivation and achievement can get really out of whack when we don't see ourselves as like belonging without our competitive abilities. So that's that. But then the other piece is the fear side that you said, like, who can I trust? Right. And I think that fear that old man in the darkness could turn into a big threat is a big connection to that fear drive. Yeah. That fear center of us. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. A lot of the stories I read on Reddit were just kind of, I was standing in a field and far off I saw this, or I was doing this over here and I saw this. Yeah. And I'm sure that leads to the mistrust, like that, kind of builds that mistrust. But also, I never really saw anything where it was, quite as close up as Billy Corgan's experience, where he was like talking to the person. He says he turned away and then he turned back, and the person mm-hmm. had turned into something else and then shapeshifted back. Yeah. So I think he saw the transformation back. And I think there are rumors out there that what he saw is a reptilian transformation. So he saw someone turn into a reptile and saw them turn back.
He met a lizard person. Yeah.
I don't think he wants to say that either, because mm-hmm. he's like, I don't want to, like, I kind of either don't want to join that camp, or I don't want to acknowledge that they exist, or I don't want to get in trouble with the reptilian overlords. I don't know.
Well, and I think these actually, if we do go into that conspiracy theory about lizard people, that still connects back to the fear and mistrust
for sure
of other people. I mean, that is the core of it, is that you can't trust this person. You can't trust them because they're not really human. And to me, that goes back to the belonging drive in us, that like who is our in-group versus who is our out-group. And in-group, out-group psychology is powerful, and it might explain so much of why we have these hierarchical delusions about who is better than who else, rather than kind of seeing each other as all belonging.
Right.
Because we all inherited that. We didn't ask for it, but this perceiving threat in the other group because we don't know them, and that which is unknown we're afraid of. And so I think we also then create that where it doesn't belong. So there's that piece. This is the two sides of we are such social beings though, like that. So you're going to see people. It's that, is it pareidolia? What you kept going back to, of like seeing people and
seeing faces
seeing faces
in patterns.
Yeah. I think this might be part of that as well, that you're going to see, even from a distance, you're going to see a person when it's an animal that we personify, when it was probably just an animal, not a person who could turn into an animal, you know? So, yeah.
It's like Dwight when he's like, I did shoot a werewolf once,
but
by the time I'd gotten to it, it had turned back into my neighbor's dog.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty mundane. But,
but
again,
also he didn't want to think that he killed the neighbor's dog. You know, that's really sad to kill a dog.
Yeah.
And maybe that's sometimes what happened. It's like the Black-Eyed Children, right? Where it's like you hit a dog and you're like, I thought it was a wolf, you know, just to like kind of help your mind, because nobody wants to kill a dog.
Yeah.
Little puppy.
Yeah.
You want to kill a puppy.
Or I got spooked by something at night, and I don't want to feel like I was scared of a dog barking, so it was like, oh, it was a 6-foot man dog, you know, like shape-shifting dog man,
right? So
that I can protect my own self-concept as a really strong, brave person. This thing that scared me must have been bigger and scarier than it actually was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to admit that it was just a dog.
Yeah. And I want to give some respect again to the historical, the value of this in cultural context. So like in Native American and Indigenous groups, where it's like a rite of passage sort of piece of that, or you were gifted or blessed to see this, to see a shapeshifter, or to have a shapeshifting ability, like that really does, I think, connect back to achievement and growth. And a spiritual connection to each other. That's kind of neat.
Not just to each other, but to usually skinwalkers are people who can turn into animals, I think. So I think that's, that connection to nature. That's the capability to be able to do that. And werewolves too, right? Yeah. Like I don't think that from Norse and European mythology.
Yeah.
So like I don't, it depends on which one you go with, whether the werewolves came out and killed people or just made a bit more people to join their what do you call a group of wolves? Pack to join their pack, or whether it was just you got to go and be kind of animalistic for a night, when there's a full moon you got to go out and kind of explore nature and explore it as an animal would, and kind of appreciate nature for that.
So I think that there are really beautiful values that underlie some of these pieces too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're on the European side, on the Native American side. The Slavic frogman, I don't know about that. That just seems like
maybe that was in a community where they had some really boggy swamp land, and they were just like,
it's
connecting to it.
It's a cautionary tale. It's like, look, man, like don't okay, you're still gonna go in there even though people have been dying. All right, look, there's a frog man who lives in there, and he will kill you. Right. But then they were like, unless you make the sign of the cross, which is, is that going to protect you or not? Because you're going to drown whether you can do that or not. Okay, you ready for the video evidence?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to negate everything I just said, huh?
Oh no! We were running out of time.
It's going to be so good. No. Yeah. I mean, is the video going to negate what I said?
Oh no! I thought you were saying I was negating everything you just said by not responding to it. I thought I had, but
no,
yeah,
you
okay.
did. Yeah, I'm saying now all of my theory just goes out of the water if there's actual physical evidence.
There's okay. Not. Hi everybody, Dustin from the future here. If you'd like to watch the clip before we talk about it, go ahead and click on the first video link. Thanks. It's Jack Osborne.
What is this?
This is his show on the Discovery Channel.
Is it a coyote? That's a four-legged animal. You can tell it's running.
I can't tell.
Oh.
You thought you saw that as a four-legged animal?
Yeah.
Wow. It looked like a two-legged animal to me.
See it.
I wanted to see a skinwalker.
No, I just...
But it was just a deer.
In the context of the desert, I was like, maybe coyote or...
Oh, footprints. Wait, that looked like a hoof print.
It sure did.
That first one looked like a footprint, though. Yeah, I don't know what led him to
freaked out.
I don't know what led him to think that it was a skinwalker. Like, it was just a man. Why does that mean it was a skinwalker?
Right.
If he would follow the footprints and they turned into hooves?
Yeah.
Or just all of a sudden the footprint stopped and hooves started?
Yeah.
Then I'd be like, oh, okay, that's why he thought that. I don't understand why he thought that.
And what's the context here? He's just investigating the paranormal?
Oh,
or he
has a show called... Well, he had a Jack Osborne's Night of Terror UFOs on Discovery Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I never watch it. I'm not a UFO person. I'm a paranormal person.
Yeah.
So I watch the ghost ones, Ghost Adventures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know there's the same thing.
It's a big umbrella.
It's a big umbrella, but the UFO ones just don't interest me because again, I would imagine that yes, there probably are UFOs. Actually, there's a congressional hearing going on that right now. Anyway, sorry. We'll talk about that later.
So what was the subject of that episode? I
think UFOs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were just out in the desert, and then he saw a skinwalker, or what he thought was a skinwalker. But again, I don't know what's going on here. The other thing I have here is the Billy Corgan thing. You want to watch that?
Yeah.
Or sorry, you want let's sorry
the video we just saw. Yeah, I mean, so far away, and just seeing something move through the desert, through the bush, through the scrub, plants, whatever.
Yeah.
At night, far away, moving slowly and then moving fast. Most likely an animal.
Yeah, what makes me mad about it is the fucking potato quality. Once again,
God, it's so far away.
This is the Discovery fucking Channel.
Get a good camera.
So they do a bunch of animal photography, telescopic lenses up the wazoo. Are you trying to tell me that nobody on that crew had a telescopic lens where they could zoom in on that person who was running through the freaking desert?
Yeah, they had a telescopic lens, and they know that it was an animal.
Yeah. Also, there were probably animal experts on the crew because they were a Discovery crew, and they were probably like, "It's a fucking deer. Do we tell Jack Osborne or not?" And they were just like, "Oh no, I guess this makes pretty good television, so we'll just keep it in there."
Let him freak out, and then yeah. No, I mean that was not very compelling evidence. Again, to me, it would be compelling evidence if it's clearly you're seeing a person walking, and then there's an animal walking.
Unbelievable. But anyway, so that's my video evidence. I apologize for how terrible it is, but it is unless you want to go and see something that's been heavily edited or after effected, that's the best evidence you're gonna get of a skinwalker.
That's great.
So the Billy Corgan thing, I have that pulled up now too. Let's watch that real quick. Hi everybody, Dustin from the future here again, letting you know that we are about to talk about the video that you can watch on your own by clicking on link 2 now.
So many words to say nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's Howard Stern.
Right? Hours and hours of that.
Anyway, Billy Corgan, on the other hand.
Yeah. No,
I do appreciate a lot in very little amount of words.
Yeah.
He's a poet.
Yeah. He seemed really just accepting of it, and
he didn't seem disturbed.
No, and he didn't seem motivated by it, oh, people are into this, so let me elaborate it more. He wasn't getting attention for it. It wasn't
right.
So I didn't see a lot of motivation to exaggerate or to lie. And I do appreciate his point of like people questioning other people's realities.
Right.
Isn't because and him acknowledging he recognizes what I perceive as reality might also be.
Repeat that, because I'm not going to play this because we need to get the rights to it. Repeat what he said so that everybody knows what you're talking about.
He said he says, I said that this happened to me, and I've been in public life for 30 years, and now people think that I'm crazy, and that now they think that, and because of this one thing basically that I said. And he's like, and I also think it's interesting that to question someone else's version or to question someone else's reality.
Right.
Like, I experienced this.
Right.
He's like, now granted, it could have been a hallucination, but I experienced that is mine.
Right.
You know, that is his. And that's very valid.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And if you can, a person, as we're always talking about, we take our minds too seriously. I don't think he takes his mind too seriously.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's great. He saw it twice though, so I think he believes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could kind of hold both ideas though. Like,
right.
Someone might say it's hallucination, sure, but it also happened twice with this person.
Right.
And that's really interesting.
Yeah.
The other piece is, that just makes it from a rational perspective very confusing. Like, is this person like hiding it? Why? And obviously, yeah, it's like an X-Files thing of like,
why wouldn't you? Yeah, you definitely need to hide something like that.
Yeah.
You can't just go around talking about how you're a shapeshifter.
Sure, you just go tell a really famous person and show them naked. And he also said that they were naked.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any rational sense, but okay.
I don't know. Work around in certain circles, right? Be the cool shapeshifter who shows up at all the celebrities' parties.
Yeah.
But don't get caught and thrown into a government lab.
I think for me, the shapeshifter. Oh, I'd just be curious. Oh, I'll save it for the recap episode.
Okay.
I have a game we can play with this.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode. Did we miss anything?
Talked
about shapeshifters. We talked about the cultural stuff. We talked about the psychological stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that there's
no technical stuff here, so I'm out.
Yeah, no, I think all I would say is this is an interesting opportunity to always come back to cultural humility. That no belief system is better than any other, and also no people are better than any other. And so let's stop calling people lizard people.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not cool.
All right. Excellent. That's a perfect note to end this on. Real quick, some housekeeping. This episode was actually a user submission. Kind of.
Oh, yeah. We had a request for this topic.
We had a request for this topic from Larry. Larry, this one goes out to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for requesting this topic. It was fun to look into. Fun to find those tidbits of people who have had experiences with this in modern society, as well as kind of just throughout history. So if you have anything that you would like for us to look into, please write it into stories@paranormaloutsiders.com. We will do it. We proved it. We just did it. So we will do it again. We're going to shapeshift into whatever
you want us to be.
You want us to do. All right, but thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I almost went the entire episode without saying tuning in. Thanks for listening in, everybody.
Next time.
Till next time.